The void trembled with arrogance. The Xylar Dominion, masters of 6 conquered sectors, drifted above the orbit of Orpheon 9, a human colony barely a blink in the galactic eye. Their ships hung like predatory shadows, sleek and bristling with weapons that could turn continents to ash. They had come not merely to conquer, but to humiliate. Through the colony's communications channels, the invaders' voices rang with casual cruelty. "You will kneel, or you will cease to exist," they broadcast, their tone more a jest than a warning. Orpheon 9's population, thriving and unarmed, watched as the sky split with the first salvo, orbital cannons igniting cities in a crimson bloom. For every civilian screaming, a Xylar commander laughed. Executions were streamed live. Children and elders alike were numbered among the victims. No mercy, no pause. Only the cold efficiency of an empire certain of its supremacy. Ships of the Dominion circled like vultures, feeding off the panic and despair. One Xylar officer turned to another aboard the flagship Xerath, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Earth will not intervene. These humans are soft. They have no fleets capable of reaching us, no will to challenge the throne. The colony's defenders were nothing, mere ants beneath the boot of an emperor. Their fleets, where they existed, were laughably outdated. Every distress signal, every plea for aid was catalogued and ignored by the Dominion. They celebrated, toasting in zero gravity, convinced that the act would echo throughout history as a warning to all human worlds. And yet, humanity did not scream. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not fall into chaos. Silence spread across the void, unremarkable at first. The Dominion believed it was resignation, submission, the ultimate proof of human inferiority. They took their time, savoring the echoes of destruction, boasting to their allies in distant sectors. The Xylar reveled in the hubris of invincibility, convinced that their control over human systems was complete. Weeks passed. The Dominion hosted grand feasts, decorating their ships with holographic memorials of the colonies they had erased. They recorded their triumphs, sending taunting messages to Earth itself. "Witness your progeny crushed," the broadcast said. "You cannot even protect yourselves." Earth's response was, nothing, no message, no fleet, no declaration of war, just silence. And that silence was not weakness. It was waiting. Beneath the familiar blue of Earth's atmosphere, the command chambers of the United Nations Space Defense Authority thrummed with quiet activity. Generals, admirals, and scientists worked in harmony, unseen by the galaxy, unseen by the Dominion. Earth's fleets, hidden in deep space bunkers, had grown exponentially during decades of careful preparation. Dreadnoughts slept in cloaked stations at the edge of every contested sector. Armadas waited in silent orbit around distant moons, their signatures masked by layers of electronic ghosts. And the human soldiers, engineered, trained, and relentless, were ready. The first strike was subtle. One Dominion outpost, perched on the edge of the Andari Rift, went dark without warning. Comms cut, power systems exploded, and Xylar soldiers vanished before their own sensors could trace them. Panic rippled through the Dominion's ranks. Messages for reinforcements went unanswered. The silence that had mocked humans for weeks now pressed back on them like a tangible weight. Earth's voice, when it finally spoke, was not a shout, but a whisper across the void. Holographic transmissions appeared in the Dominion's strategic channels, simple in wording, but lethal in effect. "We are coming, and this time, you will hear us." The galaxy understood instantly. The wait was over. Humanity was awake. From hidden bases, human fleets emerged in waves that no Dominion reconnaissance had ever predicted. Cloaked carriers and orbital fortresses converged on strategic points, moving with a precision and scale that dwarfed the Dominion's pride. Each ship was armed with weapons capable of vaporizing entire cities, and each soldier trained to strike with surgical finality. Entire battalions of exo-armor infantry deployed on moons, their movements coordinated like clockwork, invisible to the Xylar sensors until the moment of impact. The first clash was brutal and decisive. The Dominion flagship Xerath, once a symbol of invincibility, found itself trapped in a gravitational net forged from humanity's newly revealed technology. Orbital cannons, redirected from hidden stations, shredded its hull in minutes. Evacuation pods were obliterated mid-launch. And still, humans did not cheer. The retaliation was methodical, cold, calculated. Across Orpheon 9, which they had assumed would be nothing more than ash, human engineers had reactivated surviving defensive platforms. Mines and plasma arrays they thought destroyed erupted from the ground, tearing apart Dominion reinforcements as they approached. Cities were rebuilt in days, not months, as autonomous systems restored infrastructure faster than the Xylar could destroy it. The galaxy watched, wide-eyed and terrified. Humanity's silence had been a warning, their patience a shield, and their fury a storm yet to be unleashed. The Dominion's arrogance began to crumble. Commanders who had laughed at Earth were now scrambling to defend their positions. Orders collided in chaos, fleets collided in panic, and the once unified Dominion began to fracture. Communications that were once brimming with hubris now carried desperation. Withdraw, retreat. We underestimated them, but retreat was impossible. The humans had prepared for every escape, every tactic, every contingency. The fleet formations of Earth were designed to strike like celestial hammers, crushing everything beneath them. Ships emerged from the shadows of gas giants, from behind asteroid belts, from cloaked wormhole stations. No Xylar capital world was safe, no throne secure. The humans moved with inevitability, and every action carried the precision of decades of preparation. When Earth's fleets arrived at the Dominion's capital systems, the scale of humanity's retaliation became biblical. Thousands of ships blotted out the light of suns, casting entire planets in shadow. Bombardment rained down like meteors, tearing through orbital defenses as if they were paper. Entire armies disintegrated before the first boarding pods even touched their hulls. Soldiers in powered exosuits swarmed through airlocks, leaving nothing but ruin behind them. The Dominion's leadership was hunted relentlessly. Throne rooms that had once echoed with commands now stood empty, the occupants annihilated or captured in moments. Xylar monarchs, who had mocked human civility, were dragged from their palaces into the cold expanse of space, left to drift among the stars as testimony to the cost of underestimating humanity. In the chaos, human strategy revealed an artistry that went beyond military might. Colony worlds previously untouched by the Dominion became strongpoints of retribution. Humans leveraged resources, knowledge, and sheer will to engineer catastrophic collapses of enemy logistics. Starports exploded in chains, fleets were decimated in ambushes spanning light years, and no corner of the Dominion's territory remained secure. The horror was not just in the destruction, but in the inevitability. Where the Dominion had relied on speed, humans had mastered patience. Where they had relied on fear, humans had returned it tenfold. And yet there was no madness in their methods. Each strike was precise, each annihilation purposeful, each act of vengeance cold and absolute. As Dominion worlds burned and fleets fell, whispers began to circulate across the galaxy. Never provoke Earth again. Civilizations that had once been allies of the Dominion began to tremble. Trade routes were rerouted, alliances reconsidered, and entire empires held their breath, fearing the slow, relentless patience of humanity. By the time the last Dominion bastion fell, silence returned to the void. But it was not the silence of weakness. It was the silence of power. The quiet after a storm that had reshaped the galaxy itself. Systems were left scarred, empires collapsed, but humanity remained. Not a word of triumph, not a note of celebration. Just the presence of a force too patient, too meticulous, too absolute to ever ignore again. Survivors of the Xylar Dominion, those who had lived to see the end, spoke in hushed tones. Their silence, it burns deeper than our thrones could endure. And across the void, in the strategic chambers of Earth, the fleets rested, not in relief, but in readiness. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo for centuries. Patience may hide wrath, but when unleashed, that wrath is infinite. Humanity did not shout its victory. It whispered its warning across every quadrant of space. Every civilization, every colony, every starfaring species understood one immutable truth. The silence of Earth is a precursor to annihilation, and vengeance, when it comes, is total. And so the void remained, dark and trembling. Planets still burned, fleets still smoldered, and the stars themselves seemed to watch in fear. Humanity had risen not with fanfare, but with the unstoppable certainty of retribution. They had waited, they had watched, and they had struck. The galaxy learned, at last, that underestimating humanity was not merely a mistake. It was a sentence, and in the quiet aftermath, where once proud thrones had stood, only whispers remained. Never provoke Earth again. Because the humans had taught them all a truth older than war itself. Silence. When patient carries a fury that cannot be contained, and that fury burns deeper than any throne, any empire, any star.